Today on Open Minds UFO Report, a police officer reports a UFO caught on surveillance video, a New Mexico witness finds a UFO in a photo, and a billionaire says he will include a fleet of tiny spacecraft in his hunt for aliens. Your Open Minds UFO Report starts now. Hello and welcome to the Open Minds UFO Report. My name is Alejandro Rojas. A police officer in Wheat Ridge, Colorado reported watching multiple unknown lights at near ground level during a routine property check. Video surveillance backs up his report. The officer reported his sighting and sent the video to the mutual UFO network known as MUFON. The police officer pulled into Anderson Park at 1 a.m. on June 19, 2014 during a routine patrol. He says, "As I began driving towards the back, I see 5 or 6 lights, 2 red, 2 blue, and 2 green, or it was 2 red, 3 blue, and 1 green. The lights were near a tree line on the other side of a softball field and about 150 yards away." He described the lights as being in an oval-shaped cluster that was about the size of a car. The lights were each as big as softballs and as bright as car headlights. The officer explained, "As I drove into the park, the lights did not change in intensity or move like a directional light would as you move a flashlight around. As I drove, I observed the lights from about 5 o'clock to the 4 o'clock position, covering about 50 yards, and there was no change in intensity of the light or any idea as a direction they were pointing, thus giving me the impression they were some kind of dome light or spherical in nature." The officer did not believe them to be headlights because he did not see any beams of light that lit up the grass or trees like car headlights would do. He thinks the lights were all part of one object because he says after watching them for a few seconds, they all went out simultaneously. He wrote, "There is no way the light was emitted from separate sources. The lights went out at exactly the same time and had to have been controlled from a single source." The officer called in that he was investigating strange lights in the park, then walked over to examine the area where he saw the lights. Once he got there, he saw the plants in the area were frosted over with freezing dew. This was odd for June. He estimated the temperature that night was in the lower to mid-50s. He says the whole event made him feel on edge. He explained, "It wasn't a physical feeling that made me uneasy, but not knowing what I was dealing with made me feel vulnerable. I went back to my patrol car and throughout the night parked nearby to see if the lights came back, and they never did. I went back to the area just as the sun was coming up and did not observe any signs on the ground, and the vegetation was no longer frosted." The officer speculated that the lights could have been an ATV, but he says he ruled that out because he did not hear anything and the trees are too dense in the area to travel that fast on an ATV. The surveillance video the officer was able to obtain shows the lights, and they do seem to be past the road and in the woods. The video is a low resolution, so it's hard to see the lights, but they are there. Colorado MUFON field investigator Henry Lindsay and MUFON Director of Training Ken St. John investigated and closed this case as an unknown. A witness in Santa Fe County, New Mexico submitted a photograph to MUFON from 1995 the witness believes shows a possible UFO. The witness was taking photos of a double rainbow just after a thunderstorm on August 15th in 1995. 6 photos were taken and an odd object can be seen in one of them. The witness says, "When I went through the photos is when I saw this object in just one photograph. I took the photo to the Sunspot Observatory in New Mexico. They told me that I was about 500 feet from the object. They told me that the object was going at least 500 miles per hour. They told me that the shadows were consistent with all other objects in the photograph. They told me that the camera I was using, a Kodak Instamatic, that this photograph could not have been faked." The witness claims that the observatory also warned him not to show the picture to people because he could get in trouble. However, this warning did not stop him from seeking other opinions. He says, "I went to Kirtland Air Force Base where a friend of mine was a helicopter mechanic. I showed the picture to some pilots. They became very angry with me and told me to get the hell off the base and that if I ever come back there again, they would report me to base security. One pilot told me that I was a troublemaker and that he was going to inform the base security of my address and have me put in jail. I did not go to jail, and no one ever contacted me about the photograph. The witness says he also showed the photograph to other UFO researchers, some of whom did not get back with him, and others who said the photo was interesting. It is often the case that when pictures are reviewed and objects are in them that were not noticed at the time they were taken, the objects are simply something mundane the photographer did not take note of. In this case, for example, many believe the object is a bird with its wings level, and it is blurry due to the speed it's moving. Birds are not particularly notable since there are many around when photos are taken outside. Russian billionaire Yuri Milner is looking for aliens and putting up a lot of his own money to do it. Adding to the $100 million he pledged to spend on alien hunting projects last summer, he recently announced he will spend another $100 million to create miniature spacecraft to look for extraterrestrial life in our closest neighboring star system, 25 trillion miles away. Last July, Milner pledged to spend $100 million over 10 years to help expand the ability for the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, known as SETI, to listen to a larger amount of the radio spectrum in their quest to intercept an alien radio signal. This was being done through what he calls the Breakthrough Initiatives. In an announcement made last week, Milner introduced a new program called Breakthrough Starshot. This program intends to build nanocraft that can sail the 25 trillion miles to the closest star system, Alpha Centauri, in order to search for alien life and habitable planets. It sounds like science fiction, but Milner says most of the technology needed already exists. He says advancements in microelectronics is what makes this possible. The proposed nanocraft will consist of a small microchip and a sail propelled by laser. The craft will have to be very lightweight, but it is now possible to produce a tiny chip that can include a computer, camera, navigation, and communication equipment, and anything else the little spaceship will need. The nanocraft will also be fast, traveling at speeds up to 20% the speed of light. At that speed, it will still take 20 years to reach Alpha Centauri. Milner says they will send a fleet. Instead of sending one big expensive machine, you can send hundreds of these, Milner told Popular Science. Interstellar medium is dangerous. There are dust particles that can destroy your technology. The math today shows that between the Sun and Alpha Centauri, something like this, if it flies this way, the thin edge as the leading edge, it will have 4 collisions of dust particles on the 1 micron size. Each craft will cost about the same as an iPhone, making a fleet affordable, and with the danger of dust particles obliterating the craft, redundancy will help increase the chances of success. Once they reach their destination, the little spacecraft will have a few hours to record video and whatever other telemetry they will be able to obtain. The data will then be sent back to Earth via lasers. However, because we are talking about such vast distances, the data will still take 4 years to reach Earth, even at the speed of light. Milner admits there are many challenges ahead. For instance, it will take great precision to aim the lasers sending the data back to Earth. There's also the matter of the lasers providing the light to propel the craft. The light sails will be propelled by an array of lasers on Earth that will take 100 gigawatts. It will only take a few minutes for the lasers to propel the craft to their top speed, but the lasers will need to be very precise. If you're slightly out of the beam, then you're off completely, explains Milner. Even with the challenges, Milner is confident it can be done. It is possible there will be roadblocks, but we can move forward in many of those directions. This first $100 million is really just the proof of concept. So what if the nanocraft make it and they do find aliens? Milner says, I think that there is a possibility of some life, but not intelligent life. So hopefully we will see something, but not too scary. Stephen Hawking could be at fault for making Milner worried about the scary aliens. Hawking was part of Milner's SETI announcement last summer and was also present at the announcement of Breakthrough Starshot last week. Hawking has expressed a fear that if we meet an advanced extraterrestrial civilization, it might not go so well for the human race. At the Breakthrough Starshot event, when asked what Earthlings should do if they meet aliens, Hawking replied, We should hope that they don't find us. However, he says he does think that they are out there. There are at least 100 billion galaxies in the visible universe, so it seems likely that there are others out there, Hawking told the crowd. It will take a few years to develop this spacecraft, but Milner is motivated to make it happen. He told Popular Science, "I feel we have responsibility to push this forward if we can. People have been developing this technology, not specifically for this project, but we have this capability now. And I'm convinced that if something is possible, somebody is going to do it. So I think we just really want to see if it's practically possible." That's your Open Minds UFO report for today. You can find these stories and more at openminds.tv. We post fresh UFO news daily. You can also find us on Twitter at OpenMindsTV, and you can find us on Facebook. The 25th International UFO Congress was a great success, and DVDs of the lectures can be purchased at our online store. They are also being posted on our video portal, an online streaming service. For one low price, you can view an archive of lectures from past UFO Congress events, and more videos are being added regularly. Our store and our video portal can be found at openminds.tv. Let us know if you enjoyed today's episode by liking the episode on YouTube and leaving us your comments in the section below. You can also download our podcast, Open Minds UFO Radio, on iTunes or at openminds.tv/radio. Thanks again for joining us today. For openminds.tv, I'm Alejandro Rojas.